Christopher Reive here with Mike Dawes, who's the organiser behind the IT Heavy Hitters charity boxing event. Mike, I guess first of all, how did this whole thing come around?
The event started from a suicide back in 2013. So I'd been involved in a charity fight the year before, 2012, police versus fire. And I used that as a defining moment for me to go from fat to fit. And it was a real mental health journey for me, or physical and mental health. And the guy who'd been in the corner, who'd pushed me through the whole process, he sadly took his own life the year after. And I'd been thinking throughout my fight process, why isn't there something in Wellington for people like me, people that need to go on that whole journey? And outside of doing it for business, I didn't really have a drive or a push to do it. And then with Doug's suicide, it was like, yep, this needs to happen, and the cause needs to be mental health and a suicide prevention cause.
So how did you get Mike King on board and pitch this idea to him?
Yeah, so I went through Boris, who's part of the Nutters Club and Key to Life, and talked to Boris and just said, look, this is what I want to do. I want to do it for Key to Life, so can we have a chat with Mike and see what he thinks? And Mike had been burnt 1 or 2 years before by another event. Someone wanted to raise some money for Key to Life, and he'd invested quite heavily in some promotional T-shirts and bits and pieces that probably cost the trust $700 or $800, and the return on the event was about $150. It was like, cool, thanks. So when I came in, KTL was going through the transition from the Nutters Club to Key to Life, and actually going out into the schools, and it was quite a defining moment for them. They had no funding, so for someone to come along who'd never run an event to then stand up and say, hey, I want to do this and raise some money for you, they were quite sceptical at first. But I just took them on the journey, went through the whole process of what we were going to do and how we were going to do it, and yeah, they came along and that was it really. It's been a relationship since then. In
that first year, how many people did you get signing up for it? Obviously it was just in Wellington, right?
Yeah, it was just in Wellington. I think we probably struggled to get 60, maybe 60 or 70 people. And again, we did the same thing, so we split between the two teams. And it was a free event the first year as well, so we didn't charge people to sign up. I had no idea how we were going to make it work, but I had a concept, had a model, and then we just went for it. Just jumped into it and did it.
In that first year, how much did you raise?
Just over $30,000, which was at the time the single biggest fundraiser that KTL had ever had.
Were you expecting to raise that much from the first year?
I had no idea. And the event that I was involved in, Police versus Fire, was a decent size, and that made about 25,000. So I was kind of using that as the benchmark, and anything around that or more than that would have been a bonus. So I was pretty happy with 30,000. So it's just gone up from then.
And yeah, so now there's a fight night in Auckland as well. How long did it take to bring it here, and why bring it here?
I think we kind of reached peak in Wellington, and it was a question of is the demand up here? Is there enough people that work in IT or sedentary people that actually need to have the same transition? And the answer is yes. So 2014 was the first night, and we'd made just over $30,000. Then we went 2015 and it was 42. 2016 was 56, and that was just out of Wellington. And then in Auckland we rolled that in and we made 80 between the two events in the first year in there. And then 106 last year, and then 122 this year. So there's certainly demand for this up here as well.
And in Auckland we had it in this big stadium.
Yes, huge.
Did you ever picture holding the event in something like this?
No, I mean if you've seen the Wellington venue, it's smaller than this, and we pack that out and we get 1,300 people in there. But this is next level. This is a perfect venue for what we've got.
And just your thoughts on the fight nights?
I mean, Wellington's an interesting one because I don't generally get to see the fights until the videos come up a couple of weeks after, just because running around doing stuff. But I got a chance to watch a lot more fights up here, and it was Callum and Joe and the team that ran this up here did a really good job of doing it. Yeah. So it was really good.
Yeah. And were you surprised with how many people were out on the floor and up in the stands to watch? Yeah,
I mean the more we do it, the bigger momentum it picks up. But I mean 61 tables is huge, and it was a great effort from the team, from all the fighters that pitched in and actually sold this as an event and as a cause to all of their family and friends.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people see this as a charity boxing night. It's 14 weeks of training, and then you might get a chance to get in the ring, but on the journey, you know, you're trying to raise awareness for Key to Life and, you know, go out fundraising and do all this other stuff. Like, how important is that side of the journey as opposed to just the physical demands of it?
Oh, it's super important because, I mean, at the end of the day, we make money, but money doesn't fix people problems. People fix people problems. So having that awareness of the event then promotes the cause. And actually, the fact that we've got Key to Life in the media right the way through the year, as opposed to just, you know, it peaks once or twice a year, it just keeps the momentum going, and it keeps the trust out there doing what they do.
And with Auckland to have City Kickboxing and the Combat Academy sign on this year, do you feel like that made a few more people who are on the fence want to sign up because of who runs these gyms?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some, the coaches that we've had in Auckland are really good people, really good coaches, super professional, but this year just added another level to it, I think.
Yeah. And I know there was a little bit of a coaching change with the blue team. Did you get any issues voiced to you about that in the early weeks?
No, I mean, ultimately the coaches, the gyms supply the service. You know, it's Combat Academy and it's City Kickboxing. So if it's, you know, if Eugene decides that it's Dan or it's Shane or it's somebody else, then that it's someone else that comes from that. The people that trained there certainly didn't lose anything from swapping the coaches out.
And there were about, I think, 100 or so people signed up for the Auckland event. How tough is it to narrow that group down to just 20 fights, which obviously turned into 18 in Auckland?
Yes, really hard. I mean, you want to give everyone the opportunity to do it. And it comes down to, firstly, safety. You know, you can rule some people out because they're just not ready. You know, you've been through the process, so if you can't hold your hands up for 6 minutes, if you're going to get hurt getting in there, you can't get in there. So it's personal safety first and foremost, and then it comes down to readiness and preparedness, and it's simple as that.
Charity boxing nights have come under a little bit of fire recently. Did you ever get any fallout from that?
No, I mean, we pushed the safety aspect quite hard. You know, with mandatory headgear, mandatory medical assessments and blood tests. We've certainly got age limits that we need to stick to, and we follow the rules fairly strenuously. And we've got doctors and paramedics on site as well.
And we've heard a few stories about the guys from the blue team. Obviously, as you go along on the journey, you start to open up a bit more with everyone. Is that something that you've seen the whole way through this, that, you know, you might come just for the physical aspect, but the team element is almost just as important, if not more?
Yeah, I mean, the teams build really cohesive bonds between them. And actually, the first 2 years in Auckland, we didn't see that, but we see that in Wellington year on year. If you look in the Facebook groups, like the private Facebook groups that we use, they're talking all the time. The coaches are in there, they're communicating, they're all opening up. It's like a little band of brothers. It's really cool to see. I mean, people make friends for life in this thing.
Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know about Key to Life or what Mike King's been doing the past few years, could you just give us a little explanation?
Yeah, so it's all about, the trust is all about positive societal attitudinal change. It's about opening up and normalising, firstly, our inner critic that we all have, but also normalising the conversation around mental health.
Yeah, and I know you're one of the organisers, but that aside, what would you say to someone who's on the fence about getting involved in this and stepping in the ring?
Firstly, it's not for everyone. I think it's genuinely not for everyone, but the best things that you ever do tend to come from outside your comfort zone.
Anything else about wearing hits or anything like that? Any worries?
Yeah, I mean, you only feel the first one.
Yeah, and I know you've stepped in the ring yourself. Does that help you to, you know, promote this
yeah, it does.
event?
And I wouldn't ask people to do something I'm not prepared to do myself, and that comes through, you know, all aspects of life. But I've been there. I've been through a fight camp. I've been through the ring. I know what it feels like. So, and it gives me another level of respect for everyone that's prepared to do it.
And how close have you gotten with the Key to Life team over the years?
I'm on the board of trustees. So.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thank you very much for your time, and thank you to the sponsors for everything they've done for the event.
Cool. Thank you for having me.